for the 20-yard run out. Good ball for Roberto Carlos. Comes into the penalty area towards Zidane.
Nani.
Rooney! Oh, wonderful! Manchester City are still alive here. Balotelli, Aguero!
Good evening, everybody. Good evening. Happy Friday to you, and a big up. First time, Pete. Been trying to get you on for ages. Pete, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it, mate. And in what's looking like it's going to be a massive game on Sunday.
Oh, massive game for you guys. Mate, we're done. Don't worry about us. You got 3 points wrapped up. We'll get into it. But listen, how's it going at Newcastle? It's great to finally get a Newcastle fan on. And what I'd love to understand is you're sitting bottom of the table with Steve Bruce. I think it was like for the first 14 games of the season, Pete, where I don't think you won. Surely you didn't think you would have come this far in the next 20 months. Tell me about it.
Well, this is the reason why I think a lot of opposition fans just don't understand when we say we're literally just enjoying the ride right now. We are loving the ride for exactly what you've just said. In that last year, we gave every club in the Premier League a 14-game head start. And there was times, around sort of Christmas time, 2021, it was like we were genuinely thinking that was it, that we could get relegated. We weren't picking up points, but Eddie Howe is come in and transformed us. He's got a transfer window under his belt where we bought players in that people weren't expecting us to bring in, the likes of Dan Burn and one or two others, Chris Wood, Matty Target, and he made us work. We were producing Champions League form, and that literally kept us in the league. We finished 11th, and honestly, we've been riding the wave ever since. We have just been literally riding this wave, and it's taken us into this season. And I don't think any Newcastle fan, like as honest as we are, would never have ever have believed that we would be in this position right now, where we're not just chasing top four, but we're chasing third at the moment. Which is crazy.
It's been a massive rise very quickly. Everybody in the chat, happy Friday evening to you. Smash the like button. It's free, and it really does help YouTubers. Honestly, please subscribe. Before we get going, Pete, where can people find you? What's your content? And we'll get them to start subscribing to you as well.
Definitely. Well, and many thanks for that. You've quite kindly put us in your title, really. Mm-hmm. So the title, it says Loaded Mag NUFC. So if you haven't already, click that subscribe button. Just like yourself, at the Football Heritage TV, we welcome all fans from all clubs on. We do predominantly talk about Newcastle, but we do have our preview shows with other clubs, and we have a great network of fans that come on and come on and join the chat, just like you. You've got a great chat. I can see the comments coming through. It's a superb channel. So come and join us. Just click that subscribe. It only takes a second, but it means the world to us as it does the Football Heritage TV. So I can see a few others. Craig Lee's a big fan and a big supporter of Loaded Mag NUFC, as is one or two others. So equally, Craig Lee's on now. Subscribe to Football Heritage TV. Get involved, that's for sure.
Absolutely. Right. So let's talk then. So Newcastle United, this year you've got the best defence. You play, from what I see, apart from Villa last week, you play attractive, attacking football. What's the limit for Newcastle under these owners? What's the plan? Have they come out and said we want to win the league within 5-10 years? Have they done that? What's the feeling with the Newcastle fan base?
It's a great question. And I've got to be honest. Thank you. I've got to be honest. I'll be honest with you, and this might sound, a little bit, I don't know, a little bit arrogant or whatever, but this is This is just the owners, from what we've heard from the owners. I don't believe there's a ceiling. I genuinely don't believe there is. Like,
that's exciting, right?
And it is, and it's really exciting. It's almost like too good to be true for us as fans, because we haven't had, like, having 15 years of Mike Ashley, to then having the ownership come in, and I've still got it recorded on my TV the night that we got taken over, and the interview that Amanda Staveley said with Sky Sports, and she was like, within 10 years we want to win the Premier League. Within 10 years, we want to win the Champions League. We want to be one of the top clubs in the world. And so for that reason, in my mind, I've got to think to myself, these owners are willing to take us wherever we want to go. Yeah. So therefore, that's why I'm saying to you, I don't believe there is a ceiling, because these guys, we are dubbed the richest owners in the world. These guys have a wealth that that obliterate everybody. Like, we have the wealth that they could potentially bring into this club, if and when we develop as a club and branch out, can, like, you put all the other clubs together and would still be beyond it. So if they really wanted to, we've got that capability. I don't believe they would use all that wealth. They've got other things that they're investing in, golf, for example, and various other things at this moment in time. But what I would say is they've come into football for the first time not to play second fiddle.
Right, they want to win it.
And they're looking at Qatar, and they're looking at PSG and what they've done, and they've built their brand and their model, and they're thinking, you know what, let's go to the best league in the world. Let's go to a club that's a one-club city. Let's go to a club that's been on its knees for 15 years under an ownership, and let's rebuild this club, and let's make them a great club. And I genuinely believe they're willing to do whatever they possibly can to make us, like, right at the top. You look at what Man City are doing. They're desperate. They brought in Haaland. They spend crazy money because they want to be that Champions League team. And I genuinely believe in it. And I'm not going to put a time limit on it, but in years to come, Newcastle United will be that team at some point.
I agree. But what I am upset about what you just said, I don't want your owners thinking they can do what our owners do. You leave the golf to us, right? You leave the boxing and all that stuff to us. That's our baby, all right? We're not in it for the football. We're in it for anything but football. But when you look at Tottenham's owners, for example, and then you look at your owners, and I'm not forgetting that you've had years and years of pain, obviously, with Mike Ashley and what's happened there. But do you count yourselves lucky that you've got owners that want to invest? We won't talk about the ins and outs of where it comes from, but do you count yourself lucky? Do you deserve it? Do you know what I mean? Like, you look at us and you see how we've been pretending for like 23 years under these owners that we want to be a big club. We want to win things, but we don't make that push that you guys clearly will.
Honestly, I count myself lucky, just as me as a fan. I count myself lucky every day, and I'll tell you why. I genuinely thought, and I've said it on our channel just last week, at times under Mike Ashley, I genuinely thought that I wouldn't see us in my lifetime have another owner than Mike Ashley. He never looked like he was ever going to leave.
Yeah,
he was there. Yeah. He was there 15 years too long, in my opinion. Like 14, 15 years too long.
How long was he there in the end?
I think it was around the 14 mark. Ish, 14, 15.
Oh, right. You're saying it was wrong from the start, right? You're saying he was.
Well, yeah. I mean, look, if we're going to rewind back, he came in with all the right intentions. He came in. He brought one of the up and coming English managers at the time in Sam Allardyce in. Not the Sam Allardyce that we recognise now, but he was putting up trees at Bolton. He was literally punching well above his limit. So he brought him in. He gave him money. He was signing players left, right, and centre, whether they're the right players or not. I think we know now they weren't. And he was there, and he was in the stands, and he was having pints with the fans, and he was going to away games and standing in the away end, and all that sort of stuff. And it all was looking rosy. And then all of a sudden, when things weren't going right, he just kind of doubled down, and he was like, that's it. Like, I'm not investing anymore. So like he got just under a year out of all the feel good factor, and then all of a sudden he was like, "Nah, I'm not doing it. I'm not investing any more money," and he became a businessman at that point. And at that point, that's where we fell flat. And in the second season, we got relegated, and we got relegated with Michael Owen, with Obafemi Martins, with Damien Duff, with the likes of Kevin Nolan, with the likes of Joey Barton, with the likes of Nicky Butt. You look at these players; these are experienced Premier League players at the top of their game. Some of them bigger than others. Mark Viduka was there at the time. You look at that strike force: Michael Owen, Mark Viduka, Obafemi Martins. Like that team should have never got relegated. But Mike Ashley was the biggest reason why we got relegated, because he made bad decision after bad decision after bad decision. And the only time he really invested in the club properly is when we went down twice. Yeah, the only 2 seasons he properly
to get you back up.
Exactly, because it was his cash cow. He needed us playing Premier League football to get his money. Of course. But look, he's gone. He's gone, and your new owners are pumping money. But what I like about what Newcastle have done, look, I'm a huge Eddie Howe fan. I was one of there was a selection of Spurs fans that saying at the time, "Hey, get in Eddie Howe," because I think we got in. I might get this wrong. Howe and Conte, I believe, started within like a week of each other or 2 weeks of each other, right? And I think Howe was first. And I remember thinking I'd like Eddie Howe because he's a coach, right? I like it. He tries different ways of playing. He seems like all the players that played for him at Bournemouth, now at Newcastle, they seem to really like him, and he brings that feel-good factor to the club. But what I like more than anything is, yes, you've got money, Pete, and you might tell me I'm wrong here, but I don't think so far what you've done, I don't think you've gone and bought anyone lavish. I don't think, like when Man City first got their money and they went and bought Robinho. Do you remember that? Yeah. I don't think you've done that. You've bought really well, like the likes of Trippier, solid player, Guimaraes, Isak. I don't think you've gone out there and gone, there's that massive name. But the point of me saying that is it's the players he's upskilled, the Shahs, the Willocks, the Longstaffs, Joel Linton, Almiron. I mean, these players look unrecognisable from the ones that were about to get you relegated. You know what? You are absolutely right. I do think it goes under the radar, the business that we've done since we've been taken over. I genuinely do. 13 million for Kieran Trippier. Man United tried to sign him the summer before and were quoted 40 for him. And were willing to pay it, but then Atletico Madrid decided they didn't want to sell. And you look at Dan Burn, 13 million. No one in the Premier League would have signed him. Nobody else. But he's a Geordie. He's come from born and bred Newcastle. Didn't build his career in Newcastle for whatever reason, but he's come back to Newcastle. 13 million, and he's been part of the best defence in the Premier League. He's had a brilliant year for Newcastle. You go Chris Wood. We paid 25 million to buy him out of his contract. It's a hell of a lot of money, more than anyone would have paid for him. But the fact that he did a job for us whilst Wilson was out, and then we were able to sell him effectively for 19 million. It was like the 15 million was the transfer fee. The 4 million was the loan fee. It got triggered after 3 games. It was great business overall in the end. Target on loan, we end up signing for 13. Like, we've just made really good buys. Bruno Guimaraes,
solid Premier League players, right? Like when I look at, this is the funny thing, right? Because as a Spurs fan, right? And I do have to remind myself sometimes I'm a Spurs fan, because you try and push it down sometimes, suppress those feelings. In the summer, if I had said last summer, if I had said to anyone, right, we're going to buy Dan Burn, we're going to buy Fabian Schär or Longstaff or Willock or Almiron or Joel Linton, our fans would have gone, what? No, why? But he's gelled them all. Don't get me wrong. You've added that touch of class with Guimaraes, who we'll talk about in a minute. You've added that touch with Trippier, who's got all that experience, the goalkeeper. But I just think he's done a wonderful job. And I'm not just saying that because you're on here and you're a Newcastle fan. I actually did a video about Newcastle 2 weeks ago, and I couldn't believe how many views it got from Newcastle fans. It was absolutely crazy. But will they stick by Eddie Howe? I mean, because a lot of the belief in the football circles is, well, once Newcastle get Champions League and you start getting bigger and it's that pressure cooker kind of environment, is Eddie Howe big enough for that? Do you think they'll stick by him, or do you think at some point they're going to go, right, we need an Ancelotti, we need a Jose? You know, where are you with that?
Honestly, I thought I'm a big fan of Eddie Howe. People that watch Loaded will know. I wanted Eddie Howe a year before we even signed him. When Steve Bruce was in charge previously. Yeah, I do really rate him as a manager. I was really excited for when we actually got him in. Initially I thought it might be a 2.5 year cycle, which is ultimately what his contract was. I am of the mindset now that it's more long term. Mm-hmm. After sort of the first year that the owners were saying, they've said it in the media. At times they've said they want Eddie Howe to be sort of the next Sir Alex Ferguson potentially. I don't think he'll be at the club that long, but what they're trying to say is they want a long-term manager that's going to see through a huge chunk of their project in propelling us up. And I think Eddie Howe sees it for a long-term project as well. I really do. And I get what the media are saying. 2-3 years, build Newcastle to a point, and then get an experienced manager to take on the next challenge. But why not? The Ancelottis, the Mourinhos, the managers, they're all getting older. Yeah, they're not going to be around forever. And so what you need is
they're short term. They're short term as well, right? Like, for example, I'm not comparing you with Everton from where your clubs are at the moment, but like when Ancelotti rocked up at Everton, and everyone was like, "Oh my God, they've got Ancelotti. They're going to do things," and it's like, very quickly, Ancelotti realised, hang on, I'm used to Cristiano Ronaldo. You know what I mean? I'm used to Luka Modric. I'm now playing with Dominic Calvert-Lewin and Tom Davis, and no disrespect, but they're for me, they're the managers that they go into clubs that are expected to win now. And which is the exact same thing of when we got Conte. Loads of people were like, "Oh my God, you're so ungrateful. You've got a great manager." And I was like, yeah, but wrong time, right? Yeah. Wrong time. A Ancelotti, a Conte, for me, they go into, let's say the Man United job came up. Yeah. Let's say the Man City, they go to those clubs, right? They go to those clubs and go, right, we're going to win immediately. We can handle the egos. So I really do hope that Eddie Howe gets that, because there's something very, very likable about him. You want to hate other teams, players and managers. Yeah. There's something very likable about him.
I don't know. He's never been in his career a horrible manager. You look at him at Bournemouth. He's always very well spoken. He's always extremely respectful, and he will tell it as it is. And that's what he's portrayed since he's been at Newcastle. Now he's got a mean streak about him, and some of his Newcastle fans will tell you that we're in the chat tonight. He has got a mean streak about him. We saw that against West Ham when we won 5-1. We weren't playing well at one point, and he pulled the players in when we were having a drinks break, and he hammered them. And they came out, and they were a different team. Like, he's got that nasty streak about him, but he's a really, really nice, well-spoken guy. And you need that. You do need that, because that he is kind of the spokesperson. He is the forefront of the club. But for me, as I said before, a lot of these managers that people assumed would come in and take the roles, they're all getting older now. So why not look for the next top manager to come forward? I've said it before, and there's a couple of the Loaded boys in the chat, Martin and Richie, great travel in the chat tonight. And we've said before, like, there would be no better feeling as a Newcastle fan than Eddie Howe, an English manager, wins the Premier League for Newcastle or wins a trophy for Newcastle, because it hasn't been done before. There hasn't been an English manager that's won the Premier League. That would be a huge moment, not just for Newcastle in isolation, but for English football, to have an English manager that's won the title for a club. Now we're thinking years ahead now. It would be massive. And so why not have Eddie Howe? We had a Scotsman in Sir Alex Ferguson that is arguably in a lot of people's mind the best manager to ever do it because of what he built at Manchester United. Why not have Eddie Howe? And look, we are, like I say, keep talking long term. Why not have Eddie Howe build something special at Newcastle and win not just one trophy, but a number of trophies and put himself in that position where he can be considered alongside some of the managers you just mentioned because he's been there and he's done it. And let's face it, he's 43 years old. He's got years left in the game. So it all fits nicely. Oh, you're on mute.
Sorry, my door's gone. 1 second. The dog's going mad. I'll be back in 1 second.
No worries. I'm going to have a look in the chat anyway because there's lots of great stuff in the chat. Foxy, great to have you in. As always, Mark and Richie repping the Loaded, absolutely spot on. Enjoyed the tune for life. I have to say, when Sava mentioned about subscribing to Loaded, thank you to everyone further up on the chat that had said they've just gone and subbed to Loaded. So massive thanks to that, and for everyone else, including everyone Newcastle fans, if you haven't yet subscribed to Football Heritage TV, make sure you do that as well. And thank you for all your support.
Sorry about that. When the door goes, it's the worst thing about streaming. When my door goes, if my wife's not in, the dogs just lose their mind and they don't forget that person's walked away. Anyway, Pete, so let's talk about the game. Let's talk about the game on Sunday. So Newcastle United, you're tucked in nicely in fourth, tucked in just behind Man United. You got it in your own hands, which I think is a massive, massive thing now. Slipped up against Villa, but okay. I think 5 wins in a row before that. Yeah. Is that just a slip up because you were playing a very good team that were also very, very much in form? And are you going to bounce back? Is it going to be different at St. James's Park?
Well, I'll tell you for one thing, it will be different at St. James's Park. That's for sure. We have missed not being at home. We've had 3 games on the bounce away from home, and that's a lot for any team to have 3 games. We've had 4 away games in 5. That's a lot for any team, any club. You go through the league, you've got 4 games out of 5 from away from home. It's there's a lot of pressure on there, and something had to give, and it did at Villa, and it was a really, really poor performance. Our worst performance of the season. Eddie Howe said it in his presser today. Worst performance, in his opinion, of the season. And it was. But what better way to bounce back in what is a massive game against someone that's fighting out for you for those Champions League positions? We have the edge in that we're at St. James's Park. We've got the fans. You saw what happened when we played against Man United. We need more of that again. We need the fans behind us, which there will be. Behind the players, behind the manager, the atmosphere building, and we need the boys to turn up. Now, I genuinely believe that the boys will turn up on Sunday. I really, really do. I think they'll hit back. I think they'll have something to prove. For the point that you made, they will want people to know that it was a slip up, as you mentioned. They won't want it to think that it's a dip in form. If we end up losing to you, people will then question if it's a dip in form.
Because now it's 2 in a row, right? If you lose 1 of 7 and you've won the other 6, it's a blip. If you suddenly go, oh, hang on, that's 2 defeats on the bounce. But listen, what I was going to say to you is this, right? Spurs haven't won in their last 8 away games. And in that, and our last 8 away games, other than AC Milan, who were in the Champions League semi-final, I think the best team we've played Wolves away, bottom half, right, relegation zone, Leicester, second bottom, Everton, Southampton, Sheffield United. We do not travel well. We've not won in 8. Our last away win was Preston North End, right, in the FA Cup. So are you worried about playing us? And if you are, who would Newcastle fans be worried about? Is it the obvious? Is it Kane and Son? Does anyone else worry you from a Tottenham perspective?
I have to be honest. I I think every Newcastle fan would feel like this, is that after what we did to Man City at St James's Park, and we drew 3-3 with them, probably should have won that game because we were 3-1 up at a time in the second half. Once we played that game, I think after that point, we haven't feared anyone coming to St James's Park, any team, because we believe that with the fans behind us and the atmosphere and the boys being up for it, that we can match any team at our home ground. So would we be worried about you? Not necessarily. In terms of we would focus, and Eddie Howe talked about it today, we focus on ourselves. We focus on doing our bit. If we do our bit, it will be enough to win the game. However, you asked the question, is there any players that I do worry about? And of course. I mean, your attacking line I worry about. Harry Kane for one, because he's an absolute sharpshooter. He's I'll be honest with you, he's the reason you're still in the race.
Of course.
Like he just churns out goals left, right, and centre. And
he's the reason we've been in the race for 7 or 8 years, Pete. It's just highlighted more now because we're so poor all around the pitch. But in terms of controlling the game, I mean, I've been really impressed with the mid. If I'm wrong, when I've seen you play, it's the Guimaraes, Longstaff, and Joe Linton.
Or Joe Willock, one of the two.
Or Joe Willock. Yeah. I look at that, and other than Guimaraes, who I think is a fantastic footballer, I don't look at them and go, oh, they're brilliant players. But in that system, they just all seem to be doing their job, and you seem to be dominating a lot of midfields. You will dominate our midfield. I can tell you that right now, Pete. You will dominate our midfield for fun.
You're not the only one to say that. I actually looked at your formation and the way you kind of set up against Bournemouth, and you kind of play with the midfield too. So there's like Højbjerg and Skip, if I'm right thinking.
Yeah.
There's your sort of 2 centre midfielders. Now we play
scary, isn't it?
Well, Højbjerg seems to fallen off a cliff, because at one point he was kind of the driving force of your midfield. But a lot of Spurs fans, I don't know if you feel the same, feel like he's a bit of a liability at the moment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's Højbjerg's a strange one. He's not my type of player, right? I granted, I think every club needs a Højbjerg, but for me, I think he should be an option to play midfield. He should not be the guy that's playing 38 Premier League games a season. Problem is, he can't run. Yeah. He's got no mobility in his body at all.
How old is he?
Oh God, 20.
He's in his 20s, eh?
Here we go. Let's have a look. Hang on. What's his name? Højbjerg. Højbjerg is, I've got all the player stats here. Højbjerg's 27.
Wow.
But he's just got no, I don't want to say he hasn't got an engine on him because he works hard, but he's like, if he's playing against anybody that's quick and sharp in midfield, they bypass him, just absolutely bypass him. And then Skippy is, I'm going to be honest, if there's going to be a lot of Spurs fans in the chat that might agree with me or hate me on this. If he wasn't from our academy, we would never have signed this player, right? It's that sort of player that if he played for another club, we'd go, he's really bad. But he plays for Spurs, and we try and find reasons as to why he is good. But it's all that, I'm afraid. It's all heart. And
every club does it. Every club does it. When a player comes through your youth setup, you kind of always justify a reason for keeping him in there. It's natural. And so going back to that midfield, that's where you talked about the midfield. Our midfield is on its day a really well-oiled machine, and I do think if you play with a midfield too, it will become overpowered at some point in the game. So for me, you played with sort of your wing backs. You played with Perisic on the left and Pedro Porro on the right. Will you guys look to bomb forward? That could be a potential banana skin for Newcastle if you hit us on the break and you've got those wing backs pushing forward. But I do think if it becomes a midfield battle, I do think we'll overpower you.
For sure.
In my opinion.
For sure. Look, I mean, and that's why, I'm gutted that Basuma's injured now, but I was even more gutted that when we bought in Basuma, I was really excited by that signing.
I was going to ask you about him because I've not seen him in your team for God knows how long.
He's injured now. Well, Benson Core picked up like a 9-month injury. And then we're all thinking, right, Basuma, this is your chance now. You're going to play. And then about 2 weeks later, someone will tell me the timeline, but a couple of weeks later, a couple of games later, Basuma's out for the season. And you're like, oh my God. But even before that, what we were doing is he started a few games, but in a midfield too. And whenever I'd seen him play for Brighton, he was more in a midfield three, where he was allowed to kind of be the ball carrier, come back when he wanted to, go forward when he wanted to. Our two in midfield is quite rigid, right? Because, it is. A midfield two is rigid unless they're world-class players. So for me, that's the sort of player I want to see, whoever the new managers at Spurs, we pick a name out of a hat at the moment. That's what I want to see, them come in, get a Basuma, a fully fit, firing Basuma, who was excellent at Brighton, in the team. What did you, when Spurs, let me ask you, somebody's asked this question. Where is it? Here it is. Philly, big up Philly. I hope you're well, my man. He has said, if Newcastle and Spurs changed transfer windows last summer, who would be more happier? Basically, would the Newcastle fans be happy with Spurs transfer window last summer? So you're looking at Basuma, Richarlison, Longley, Perisic, Jed Spence, Fraser Forster. I might be missing someone. Fraser Forster.
Hmm.
In hindsight, your window was amazing compared to ours, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, we went out. We went out and confirmed the deal with after his loan spell with Matty Target. We signed Nick Pope. We signed Sven Botman. That was a long chase from January, and as I loaded, we're very excited about that one. And then we went and brought in Alexander Isak. I'll be honest. I'm very happy with. I'm very happy with our window.
Yeah. I mean, I think Isak's done a wonderful job. But just quickly, listen, if you've got any questions for myself or Pete, we're only going to go for about another 15 minutes, as long as you're okay for time, Pete.
Yeah, good.
Get some questions in. Put a Q in front of it, though, so I know, as I always say, so I know it's a question and you're not just telling me something. You can't tell me something. I'm sure Phil P will come out with something funny now about me. So we'll start with this one. Philly P again. Philly 2109 has said, in the summer, if Newcastle get Champions League football, Pete, where do you think Newcastle will improve, and with who?
It's been a hot topic on our channel, talking about transfers and all the rest of it. But I'll tell you from my own personal opinion. I've said it since we finished the January window and we signed Anthony Gordon. I believe, in my opinion, we will sign 4 first-team ready players.
Right.
So they're players that will come into the first team and be starters and be pushing the others that are currently starting out the team eventually. That's what I believe. Overall, I think we'll sign 7 players.
Yeah.
So those other players will probably be players that are, part of a squad. You guys know, because you've played European football for years now, where you need those squad players that are buffers, that might play away at so-and-so on a Wednesday or Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday night, and they will do a job and play a role for the team. If there's an injury, they'll come in for 3 or 4 games and do a job. And I think those other 3 players that we sign will be that type. So I think we'll probably sign 7 players overall, but 4 of top quality. Now, Richie just put in the chat one of the Loaded Boys, Richie's story, and he mentioned one of the players that he said, I'll say Madison, and I know he's linked with you guys.
Oh, don't.
I'm a big fan of
I've wanted him for years. For me, Pete, he's the guy for me that they don't make them like that anymore.
Yeah.
If you go through the league, how many blokes that play in the number 10 that sit in the hole, receive the ball and play people in? Odegaard. I mean, City have got about 95 of them. Yeah. Odegaard.
City have got the rest of them.
Yeah, City have got. City should share them about.
Odegaard, and then City have got the rest.
Yeah. But you know what I mean? When you look across the league, there's even Europe. Let's look across Europe. That kind of position has died out, and that's what I think for Spurs definitely. And I agree. I think if you guys get him, I think he takes you up another level.
Well, we had 2 bids rejected in the summer.
Yeah,
we had 2 bids rejected in the summer. So it's clearly, and we've been told in in the winter months, building into January, that he is one of our first choice priorities that Eddie Howe wants. Now, what we're hearing more recently in the last few weeks is that from reporters of Newcastle is that he prefers a move to London, and that Tottenham are seeming to be likely to be that team that could potentially sign him. For me, I'd be gutted because I think he's the guy that could knit our Newcastle team together. We would have to play slightly different to accommodate him, but I don't think that's a bad thing.
No, not at all. I think if you've got Bruno Guimaraes and see, no offense to these lads like Joel Linton and Willock, but I think as you get bigger, they will start to play a bit part. If you get a top centre mid inside, I'm just playing Football Manager here with myself, by the way. If you get a top centre mid that comes in alongside Guimaraes, and then the triangle is completed with James Maddison, I mean, it's a wonderful free. But you know, I mean, Craig here has said the kid from PSV, so he's talking about his name's Kudos.
If he's talking about the young kid, is it Simons who is on loan?
Craig, who are you talking about? I thought he might have meant
Simons. He's on loan from PSG, who we talked about on our fully loaded transfer show.
Xavi Simons.
Yeah, Simons. Yeah.
He is. I thought he was talking about is it Kudos, who plays for I don't know. Craig, let us know. He's talking about he's talking about your guy.
He is.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. Let's go through some of these questions. By the way, I haven't been ignoring questions. I've been starring them. Let's have a look. The first question here is big up Jacob, my man Jacob out there in America with the sexiest voice in the world, and he's got lovely long hair. Has said Pete's thoughts on Anthony Gordon.
Anthony Gordon, quite simply, is an investment for the future. I've said it before, I'll say it again. We will not see the best of Anthony Gordon until next season. And that is my honest opinion. So
his little outburst the other day. What did you make of that? His little outburst, just age, just a bit petulant.
Yeah, just inexperience. Yeah. Like all the other players in the squad, like the likes of Matt Ritchie and the likes of Joe Willett, were very, very quick to kind of like pull him in and say, "Oh, like this is what we do. Like this is it. Like this is what we do for the team. Like you know, it's not about you; it's about everybody." And look, before he even walked up, he clapped the fans. He walked off the pitch. Everything was all good. Everything was all rosy. And he started against Villa. So yeah, I think if there was bad blood, I don't think he'd have started the game, to be honest. But look, he is a young lad who needs time to develop his game. I'll be honest with you, like I've said it before, I think we'll see the best of him next season. I think he needs a good pre-season under his belt. And I think European football will be good for him because he'll get minutes. He'll get minutes playing European football. Or if Newcastle are playing European football, because we're going to have to transition our squad around. But I believe it's an investment. He's still a really, really young lad. But of course, Everton fans, of course, opposition fans, because we paid 45 million for him, are going to question it. They're going to want to see instant success.
Everyone wants that. And you can't have it with every player. You can't at all. But here you go. This one's for me. Craig Lee has said, for Sava, who do you want as your next manager and who do you think you'll get? Oh, God, we could be here till Sunday talking about this. Look, I've said all along, for me, I don't want to say I'm not bothered. That would be the complete wrong terminology there. What I want to see is a hungry manager that comes in, that wants to play football on the front foot. That's what I want to see. Whether that's Nagelsmann, whether that's Arne Slot, whether that's Ruben Almiron, whether that's Vincent Kompany, I don't care. But what we've got to do as a fan base, for me, is the next manager that comes in, we need to realise that they're building from scratch, really, because Tottenham being in a Champions League race is a massive false kind of false truth as opposed to where the club is. So for me, I'm not bothered as long as it's the right style of football. I'm more worried about the director of football that's going to come in now that Paratici's been sacked. and Levy's got a chance to get the director of football and the manager on at the same time that have the same ethos, so that we can build something with them in unison. Next one's for you. It's from Minerals. Big up Minerals. I said, Sava, question for Pete. Which side is better, Bobby Robson's Newcastle or Eddie Howe's?
Great question. I've got to be honest. It's a hard one because they're two very different teams. If you could ask me, I would say this Eddie Howe team is more well-rounded. I think it's better. It's by far a million times better defensively. If we'd have had this defense in that attacking team under Sir Bobby Robson, I think we'd have challenged for the title in the early 2000s. I genuinely do. I think that our defense is the only thing that let us down. But that Bobby Robson team, and I was travelling up every week from where I am in the Midlands to watch Newcastle during those years as a young lad. That was total football. Laurent Robert, Craig Bellamy winding up all the defences. Alan Shearer being Shearer. You know, you had Gary Speed, hard as nails in the middle. You had the pace and power.
Rest in peace, Gary Speed. Shame that.
Laurent Robert, the French magician, the way he struck the ball. Honestly, the way he struck a ball. Nobby Solano, equally. We just had quality players that you knew when Newcastle came into town, it was going to be entertainment. You were either going to see you were guaranteed goals. You didn't know what team was going to score them. And that was the love about Newcastle. And more often than not, we picked up the wins.
But this current team's evolving, right? This current team is evolving. So I think, you know, maybe if you ask that question again next year, it could be different. But I always like the Keegan side, purely because my favourite ever Spurs player played in that team in Ginola. So, and you can see he's behind me is David. I don't know if you can see the bottom one.
I can, yeah.
Just oh God, he was not only was he a magnificent footballer, he was just sexy. I just loved everything about the man. He's my hero. If anyone could turn me, it's Ginola. Even now.
I think a few Jordans would say the same.
A few more questions. Let's get these out of the way. We've had that one. Here we go. The Perchy TV. Big up Perchy. If you haven't already, please go and subscribe to this man. He's one of the best people in the community. Said, Pete, if you get Champions League football, how far do you realistically see you getting? Also, St. James's Park under the lights will be electric. So are you winning the Champions League basically next year?
We've got to get there first. Baby steps. But look, if we were lucky enough to play Champions League football next season, I genuinely think the target would be to try and get out of the group stages. That would be the target. I wouldn't be able to say anything more than that. But Eddie Howe would be saying, look, let's be finishing in the top two. After that, as we always know, you guys know more than us, playing Champions League football, it's anybody's game. It all depends on who you get drawn, or depends on how you perform on the night. But I would be saying top two for me. Top two. Let's get in. Let's get into the knockout phases.
Once you're there, luck of the draw, right? Luck of the draw. I mean, look, if this Milan team can do it, who are okay. Thanks, Perchy. The next one's for me. It's Geordie Tune for life. Love it. I love that. Question, Sava, where do you see Tottenham, the club, going in the next 2 years? Not on the pitch as such, but as a club overall. Oh my gosh. Look, as always, we're at a crossroads. We're never not at a crossroads. As I said earlier, for me, it's all about from a business point of view, the club's going to be brilliant, right? From a commercial aspect, the club is going to be brilliant for the next few years, for the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years. NFL, boxing, go-karting, golf, this, that, the other. That's sound. That's where we're going to go there. We've got every sponsor you can imagine. We've got a 4x4 sponsor, a paint sponsor, a soap sponsor, a this, that, the other. On the pitch, as I said, it really depends in the next sort of 4 to 8 weeks. What do we do with a manager and a director of football? Because at the moment, we've got neither, and the club is a bit of a shambles, if I'm honest. And I think most Spurs fans in the chat will tell you that's me being really polite, calling it a bit of a shambles, but it is what it is. Alan Sibley, big up 10-inch Alan Sibley, said, a question, do you think Newcastle will be interested in signing Kane? Pete? Kane?
If you ask a lot of Newcastle fans, they'd be saying, "Hell yeah! Why not? Why not put a cheeky bid in for Harry Kane?" But the reality is that we know, look, Harry Kane, if he leaves Spurs, and it still is an if.
Yeah,
I'm still not convinced that it's going to be the case. I think I'll be honest with you, and it might sound harsh, so I apologise to Spurs fans on here. I think if he wants to win the sort of trophies that he wants to win before his career ends, and it is a short career, he's probably going to have to leave in order to maybe achieve that. You know, talking Champions Leagues, Premier Leagues, that sort of stuff.
Yeah, don't apologise. I think we know that, right? We know that.
But not all players are built like that. He might just want to be the top Premier League goal scorer and try and win a cup or something with Spurs, and that might be enough. We had something similar with Alan Shearer. But for me, I think will we go in for Harry Kane if there was even a small inkling that he would potentially choose us? I think our owners would want to.
Oh, you'd have to
explore that, but. For me, there's all this talk of Man United and all the rest of it. I'll be honest, I don't believe Daniel Levy will sell to another English club. I think if he shook hands with Harry Kane on leaving this summer, that would be a deal for him to leave the country.
I think the only difficulty we're going to have, right, is if Kane does. It's all ifs, right? All the football chat is ifs and hypotheticals. If he does turn around and say, "I'm not signing a new contract," then and Daniel Levy starts getting in £90 million bids for a player with 1 year left. Levy's not stupid. This is the thing. As much as Spurs fans don't like him, as much as we don't do what's right on the pitch, the reason Spurs are worth 3, 4, 5 billion now is because he is a very good businessman. He just doesn't seem to want to win football things. But let's rattle through, because I do want to finish up definitely within the next 10 minutes. Rich Story, this one's for me, has said...
One of the Loaded boys.
There you go. Get over. Make sure you get over there. Subscribe to the Loaded Boys. Subscribe to myself. Smash that like button. Let's all be one big happy family. He said, question, Sava, I know Pete's thoughts on St. Maximan, but what's your view on him? Do you know what? St. Maximan's one of them players that you love to watch, right? Because he's not a system player. He's not he'll do a job. He's that guy that gets you off your feet. And often, for me, guys that get you off your feet, they're really frustrating because they don't know what they're going to do. So that means your teammates and you as fans don't know what they're going to do. I would say if I had one criticism of him, and I don't know the ins and outs of it, this is off the top of my head, I don't feel like there's a lot of end product. But what I would say is I'm guessing when opposition fullbacks see St. Maximan in the team, they're thinking, oh God, this is going to be a very long day because he's unpredictable, and there's not many of them left. So that's my thoughts on him. But listen, I've got loads of time for these types of footballers. Waver Zesh has said, question for Pete: where does he see Spurs in the future? I would love to get an outside perceptive outside. I would like to get an outside perception of Spurs.
Yeah, great question. Waver, I did see this in the chat, and I was thinking,
oh God, yeah. What can you say?
But honestly, it goes back to Daniel Levy, because the way I genuinely see it, and this is from my perspective, Man City are going to come harder regardless of what they do next season. Arsenal are going to come in, hit back hard. Chelsea, bottom half of the table at the moment, are probably going to spend another 500 million. You know what their owners are like. Liverpool are going to come back harder. Man United are going to start continuing to build with Eric Ten Hag. So that's the 5 teams there. That's not even including Newcastle, who we know the spending power of Newcastle. If we get Champions League football, it'll be more so. We're not discounting. You cannot discount Aston Villa. Aston Villa's owners are incredibly wealthy. They've got money to spend. Now, if they were to get European football, it will allow them to spend even more money. So you've got all those teams. And then you come to Tottenham Hotspur. And the problem is, it's not about the club. It's not about the stadium. It's not about the attraction. It's about Daniel Levy and his ability to put money down on the table and spend and buy players. And if everyone else around you are spending and looking to really push on, and let's not forget, we've just talked about Harry Kane. You could potentially lose Harry Kane in the summer, who is your biggest source of goals. And you don't properly reinvest that, it could potentially be a really difficult season for Tottenham.
Yeah, for sure.
Daniel Levy does something that he hasn't done for as long as I remember, and he gives the new manager the money, and he says, right, you're the guy to take.
Yeah, you do it.
Go spend the money. Who do you want? Not, oh, we think you should be buying this player, or we think you should be buying that player. Who do you want for your team to build? Let's go build it. That, for me, would mean that you would have a much, much better season, even without Kane, because you'll be building a team, not relying on one player. So
that is spot on.
Both ways.
That is spot on. For me, I've always said, look, we've become so reliant on Harry Kane. At some point, I want to see what it looks like without him. I want to see how we build without him. But hey, I'll wrap through these last two questions, and then I'll let you go, Pete, for your Friday night. And this first one is for me, I'm guessing. What's the deal with the Spurs stadium? Do ENIC own the stadium separately from Spurs? Somebody more intelligent in the chat will probably tell me if I'm wrong here. My understanding is that ENIC own the stadium through a separate holding. So I believe that if they sell Spurs, the stadium is not sold with it. I believe that they could either then rent it out or sell it separately through another company. Somebody will tell me if I've got that massively wrong, but that's my limited understanding. I'm a football fan. I'm not a finance fan. I'm a football fan. Geordie Toon for Life has said, question, Sava, who is the next rising star to come out of your academy? This is going to be very quick. Don't know. No one. There's loads of talk about it being Sean Devine, who's a young lad that's been on the bench quite a lot, but we don't ever give him any minutes. And there's lots of talk of Stain Scarlett, but he's at Portsmouth and he's not really getting a lot of games. He scored 2 or 3 goals this season. I don't know. There's not a lot. If I'm completely honest, there's not a lot coming through. Pete, give me let's wrap this up. Give me here we go. There we go. ENIC own the stadium, but yes, Sava is right. It's a separate entity. Okay, cool. There we go. Pete, give me a prediction. Give me a prediction for Sunday. What are you going with?
I'm going to stick with my prediction that I said on the channel, on my channel yesterday, with the boys. I'm going to say Newcastle win 2-1. I think we'll take the lead, maybe even 2-0 up, and then you'll pull a goal back. So I think it'll be a 2-1 Newcastle win.
I'm going to go with a 3-0 Newcastle win. I think we're listen, I watched Leicester rip through us. I watched Sheffield United beat us. I saw Southampton score 3 goals past us, and they can't win a game for love nor money. I just can't. I can't see a win. I'm being really honest. I can't see a win. If you offered me a point right now, I'm at that stage where I'll bite your hand off for it. But I just don't think we will. So listen, Pete, I want to say massive thank you, man. It's Friday night. Thank you for giving up your time. Everybody in the chat, please go over and subscribe. These guys are good fun. Go over and subscribe to these lads. Subscribe to me. Subscribe to the world. Subscribe to everyone. Yeah. And Pete, tell us what sort of content you got coming up this week.
Yeah, well, we've got a big week, a big week of content on Loaded Mag NUFC. So keep an eye out on things. First of all, we've got a reaction show after the game, be around sort of 7:30, 8 o'clock on Sunday evening. Just talk about all the action of the match, win, lose or draw. We've got a big week this week because me and the Loaded boys, for the first time ever, the 5 of us, 4 of us have met before, the 5 of us haven't been together as one. We're all going to the Southampton game a week on Sunday. We're all meeting up for the first time. We actually have a charity match against another Newcastle channel, and we're raising money for Gateshead Food Bank, which is just across the bridge in Newcastle. We've got lots and lots of people associated with Newcastle that are going to be joining our squad. And we've got lots of content coming alongside with that. We also have a special guest joining us on Wednesday. Keep an eye out on that on socials. Those that are from Loaded Mag NUFC that watch the channel regularly will know who this guest is. And yeah,
are you going to tell us? Are you going to tell us, or are you just leaving it at that?
We're not going to tell you just yet. We're going to announce it. So if you follow us on Instagram, if you follow us on Twitter, keep an eye out. You'll know who this person is, and he's linked. He's a Newcastle fan, but he's heavily linked in all Newcastle what they do. So keep an eye out. He's a great guest. He's been on before. We're looking forward to having him again. And like I say, we've got some good content. We're on Monday. We've got our squad announcement. So the players that are going to be joining us in our squad are going to be announced, so that's going to be a good show. That starts at 7:30. So like I say, lots of content over the course of this week. Preview shows because we play against Everton on Thursday. We've obviously got a preview show because we play Southampton on Sunday. Lots and lots coming on the channel. So thank you to everyone in the chat that subscribed already. If you haven't, please do. But equally, please subscribe to Football Heritage TV because it's a fantastic channel. So all you Newcastle fans that have come and joined me, thank you tonight. But please subscribe on your way out.
Absolutely. And listen, send me over privately, WhatsApp me the link to your charity and I'll put it in on the streams. So please do that. Everybody, thank you very much for your time. Everyone have an amazing Friday night. If you're getting drunk, don't get too drunk or get very drunk, but make sure you're safe and you get home. There we go. I'm going to watch a film with the wife. And no, I'm not going to watch Succession with the wife tonight. I haven't seen the new season.
I've not watched that yet. Any good?
Oh, it's amazing. The show is amazing. It's just the new season has just come out, and I've been trying to let it build up to get a few episodes because I can't watch one and then they go next Sunday, and you go, what? Like,
I need something new to watch. So,
Succession is brilliant acting, brilliant cast. Everything's amazing. I'm going to do that. I'm going to have a Chinese. I'm going to eat so much that I feel sick and say I'm never going to eat again. I'll eat the rest of it in the morning. Everybody didn't need to know what I'm eating for dinner. Guys, thank you very much, guys and girls. Please like, please subscribe. Be safe whatever you're doing tonight. Have good weekends. And enjoy the 10-second video to end the channel.
And here comes Hurst. He's got some people are on the pitch. They think it's all over. It is now. It's 4.